Do you ever feel like you are much faster and more efficient when you're using a pull buoy to when you take one out? In this video, I'm going to show you how you can improve your kick so that you can actually be the same speed and the same efficiency when you don't have a pull buoy in to when you are using one. Hi, I'm Brenton Ford from Effortless Swimming. I help triathletes go from back of the pack and struggling through their swim to making it a strength where they finish higher in the results, they come out of the water fresh so that they can put more effort into their bike and their run. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to improve your kick and make it so you can swim just as fast and just as efficiently to when you are using a pull buoy, which I know is a big thing for a lot of athletes that I coach. The first step is to hold your body and your legs correctly. Something that I see with a lot of triathletes is they swim with their top half of their body here horizontally and the lower half bent at the hips and their legs are low. Now, as a triathlete, you're likely to come into your swim sessions with some fatigue from the ride and the run sessions you've been doing. And you'll also likely have a bit more muscle mass through the legs from the work that you're doing on the ride and run compared to pure swimmers. You're likely to have tighter hip flexors as well. Now, if your hip flexors are really tight, it can be hard to hold this horizontal, streamlined position when you're kicking. So you might need to do a little bit of work to improve your hip flexors. And that can be from a good morning stretch, which is a very effective way to do that. And there's a number of other ways to improve it. But first of all, we need to learn how to hold our body correctly. Now, when I'm working with people, I talk about it as, first of all, thinking like you've got a piece of rope from the top of your head all the way through your body to your toes. Now, we need to hold that piece of rope taut. And that means just lengthening through your spine and your body so you're long like this. If you let that go and you let this sag come into that piece of rope or through your body, then you're not going to be very streamlined and you're unlikely to be kicking with your legs in the right position. So first of all, make that piece of rope through your body taut. So we need to lengthen through the body. But secondly, we need to switch the core on a bit. Imagine someone's going to hit you lightly. You're going to brace your core just very lightly. And you need to squeeze your butt cheeks together. I know that sounds funny, but you need to engage your glutes just a little bit to switch them on. And that straightens you out through the body, because too often I see swimmers and triathletes in particular swimming with this bend at the hips, and then they cop all this drag on the top of their legs because they're not holding themselves correctly with their body and their legs. So we need to get that right first of all. And it might just come down to needing a little bit more range through your hip flexors. Now, the thing about using a pull buoy is in order to keep it between your legs, you need to switch your core on, use your glutes a bit to keep it in there so it doesn't pop out the back. So when you're swimming normally without one, you almost need to imagine like you've got one in between your legs in order to hold yourself correctly. So when you've got one in, it can automatically put you in the position that you should be, or the feeling that you should have when you don't have one in. So I think if you can carry that same thought of having a pull buoy between your legs, do that same sort of concept, but trying to keep it in there when you're swimming, and that will actually hold your body much better in the water. The second thing you need to do is be a ballerina in a bucket. If you think of a ballerina, they're up on their tippy toes, they're not bending their knees too much, they're walking on their tippy toes with reasonably straight legs. Now, doing that sort of motion in a bucket, so not just a small bucket, but more like a tub, kicking in this bucket out behind you so the kick is just a little bit wider than your body line and not too much more than that. And we also don't want it too small where it's this tiny little kick, but kicking in the bucket that's just a bit wider than your body line will mean that you're kicking effectively and not creating more drag, because you would actually get more propulsion from a bigger kick, except it's going to be outweighed by more drag. So that's why you see the best swimmers in the world kicking with this action like they're a ballerina kicking in a bucket. Now, something that I see quite regularly is that when a lot of people are kicking, they're obviously not pointing their toes and their toes are pointing down. And that can come from either tight ankles or just not being aware of where their feet are. But the other thing I see a lot of is when people are kicking, they let their feet turn out to the side. And it creates a lot of drag when their feet turn outwards. So the way that I teach people to kick is point your toes but turn your feet slightly inwards. That gives you a bit more range of motion and flexion through your feet. So toes pointed, feet turned ever so slightly in, but you've got to keep the ankles relaxed as you do it. And we've had swimmers who have come to clinics who we see in their first filming that they're kicking and this foot's turning out to the side for like a bit of balance and stability, but it's slowing them down in a huge way. Then when they get their feet kicking correctly and they avoid that foot turning out, they are so much more streamlined, they look faster in the water, and they are moving faster because they're not doing something every second or third stroke that's causing them to create a huge amount of drag. So number 2, be a ballerina in a bucket. Number 3 is use your kick for balance and timing and not propulsion. Newer swimmers tend to come into swimming and they're trying to use their kick to, number 1, keep their legs up, and number 2, to try and move them forwards. Now, unless you're doing a 50 sprint or perhaps a 100 sprint, your kick should just be more about balance and timing and not propulsion. And even if you are doing a sprint, only a small amount of your propulsion will come from your kick. Primarily, it's going to come from what your arms are doing under the water and how you coordinate that with your rotation and the timing of your kick. So your kick is about balance and timing. So don't try and kick hard to move yourself forwards. That's going to use a lot of energy. You can save your legs, make your kick feel very comfortable, very easy. It's just there for balance and timing. The 4th step is to time it correctly. So a good use of your kick is to time it with the rest of your stroke. And there's 2 ways you can think about timing it. Now, I prefer for most people to think about coordinating their catch and kick on the same side, at least on every second stroke. So catch and kick, coordinate that, and then you get this connection through the body. Because if you kick down at the same time you're going through your catch there, it's almost like you send this energy through your leg into your hip, and then you've got this stability, something to almost pull against there, if you get that timing right. So that's how I prefer most people to think of their timing, is get their catch and kick going together. Now, there is another way to do it where you're thinking about your opposite hand entry and your opposite leg kicking down. That's another way to do it. But I do find the first way is much easier for most people. And this is something that we cover in our 5 core principles inside of our membership, is the timing of the stroke. And I've had swimmers who, when they get that, they take 10, 15 seconds off their 100-meter pace for a lot of them if they're around the 2 minutes to 2:10 pace. It can make a huge difference. And even for elite swimmers, I've had pro swimmers who have, pro triathletes who have done this, and they have found a couple of seconds in the 100-meter times when they've focused in on this point. And it's a little bit tricky. It takes some time. You do need some drills often just to get the feeling of it. And we've got those inside the 5 core principles in our membership. But when you get it, it makes a huge difference. So time your catch and your kick together on the same side. And the 5th step is to work it, is to do some pure kicking in your sessions, usually your warm-up. And that can be either vertical kick, where you're vertical in the water with your arms across your chest or hands out to the side. That's a really good way to work and develop your kick. I also like kicking on the side because that will work the kick evenly in both directions. Because if you're kicking just with a kickboard face down in the water, you're working the down kick more and the up kick less because there's less water on top, so there's less pressure. So I think you can work your kick better if you do it vertical or kicking on the side. And it's not something that happens overnight. It comes with time. And those swimmers that I've worked with who have stuck with it, who have continued to practice their kick and continue to work on it in their sessions, their kick just becomes much more effective and a part of their stroke. Whereas we see the swimmers who have an ineffective kick and they don't work it, it's like the kick is just this passenger that they're dragging along with them for the ride, rather than this thing that's working with them and working for them. And I've used these 5 steps to help swimmers and triathletes improve their speed and their body position and actually beat their swim times that they would do with a pool buoy. They can actually beat that when they take the pool buoy out because their kick's actually working for them and it's effective. And this is just one of the ways you can swim faster. There's a lot of different ways that we teach inside the Effortless Swimming membership. So if you want to join us inside the Effortless Swimming membership, click the link below and you will take 5, 10, maybe 15 seconds off your 100-meter pace in the course of 6 months or less. So check out the Effortless Swimming membership below.